Hello, my name is Clara Maveglia and I founded a Cultural Entrepreneurship Institute in Berlin. Today we are in Pisa, Italy, and my guest is Professor Mosca. He started the foundation ARPA and hosts the International Festival of Robotics in September here in Pisa. Welcome to our community, Mr. Mosca. Buongiorno Professor Mosca, che bello essere qui a Pisa.
Welcome, Professor Mosca. How beautiful to be here with you in Pisa. Let me introduce you with a couple of figures. You are Professor Emeritus. You've been a surgeon for many, many years at the Pisa hospital. You have traveled a lot. You have a lot of experience. And how many operations did you do? Personally, more than 30,000. My training doctors, another 30,000 under my supervision. I've been very lucky. I have supported new generations of exceptional value. I've had wonderful people working with me. So you spent most of your time in the operation theatre. That's right. Can you describe your life as a surgeon? How did you live this kind of profession, which is a vocation, I believe? First of all, I've been very lucky in my life. I have been able to do what I've always wanted to do, being a doctor, specifically a surgeon. I decided to become a surgeon on my third year at medical university almost 60 years ago. And I've dedicated my whole life to surgery and to the teaching of surgery, trying to identify the most talented pupils to support them so that they could do much better than I could do. And I'm very happy with what I have achieved. And now that I am Professor Emeritus, which means I am some sort of special pensioner, I realize, looking at what my former pupils are doing, I realize that it has really been worth it. I've been really lucky because I was able to fulfill my duty as a professor, which is that of opening ways for others. On top of that, my generation has had a great opportunity, which is that of having a consolidated surgical tradition, a wonderful tradition, and at the same time having the opportunity of leading the new generations towards the future. Minimally invasive surgery, robotic surgery, transplantations. This has been my task. And I restate this, I've been very, very lucky. You were telling me that amongst your pupils there are many, many women, and that lady surgeons are very good. Well, the first female training doctors coming to the Department of Surgery led by my professor were met with irony and perplexity. My professor told me, they've come here to find a husband, and would you ever allow a woman to operate on you? I have taken a totally different stance. I would entrust my carotid artery to one of my former pupils, a lady who directs a sonological center, who has had many liver transplantations. She's a wonderful professor and an excellent teacher. I mean, I have always recognized a lot of value in women, and I believe that they're particularly suited for this kind of job. They are motivated. Men often are not motivated. They just think that they can do things without commitment, without giving up many other things. Women are different. When they decide for surgery, they sacrifice themselves. They change their life. And then, after giving up a lot of personal things, they get where men will never get. Fabulous! But here in Pisa, there is a special atmosphere. How come that we have such an important center of excellence of technology and robotics? Is there anything in the air? Talking about robotics, I have to say that robotics developed in Pisa back in the 80s when pioneers, robotic engineers such as Professor Danilo De Rossi of the university and Professor Paolo Dario, a slightly younger man of Scuola Sant'Anna, decided to pave the way towards the future. At that time, it looked like science fiction, but now we're surrounded by robotics. The world has changed. But why Pisa? Well, because in Pisa there is such a concentration of research in the whole area, thanks to these pioneers, these leaders. And we have many, many young people, men and many women, working in an excellent way. We have such a concentration of science, research in this area, which is extraordinary, and it really deserves worldwide attention. This is an international reference point. We have developed this in time. Last year, in 2016, Fondazione ARPA, together with the Association of the Former Pupils of the Sant'Anna School, of which I am a president, have organized Robotica Pisana, a conference about the state-of-the-art opportunities, perspectives in the field of research, training and industry. This is actually the core of what we are developing this year at our festival. These are the themes, conjugating all the competencies that can be found in this area. That's fabulous. And it is out of this that we realized we had to organize a festival. Well, let's go back to the operating theater. Is technology important in the operating theater? Which are the opportunities and the limits of robotics in medicine? The last 15 years have been sensational, and the next 2, 3, 4 years, with the development of new platforms, with the development of the present technology, will be a complete change. A new world is opening up. It is like in the film 2001 Space Odyssey, with visions that were totally unpredicted until a few years ago. Top-level technologies, new surgical robots of extraordinary quality. Much has changed in the operating theater. Give us some practical examples, please. The biotic hand and the robot that can make incisions and place sutures? Well, incisions and sutures. The festival we're actually organizing will make people understand that robots are controlled by men. The patients come to me and ask, are you going to operate on me or will it be the robot? They just imagine a humanoid robot that will take the place of the surgeon. But it is a service robot. The etymology of robot means service. Robots allow us to do things. Minimally invasive surgery, things that are not possible with such precision by the human hand. So, operating theaters are full of technology, but quality is achieved when technology is used in the appropriate way. It must not be a self-celebration. We must be responsible, validate what is useful, discard what is not useful. This is the task of large university centers and large hospitals like this one, validating technology and expanding technology in a rational way. Not just to boast that our hospital has got robots. That doesn't make quality. Quality is made by people who must be fair. Fair in relation to the hospital, to the patient. My dear patient, I use the robot because it is beneficial for your case. So, for the benefit of patients and for the benefit of society. Without forgetting sustainability, we're talking about extremely costly innovations. And we also bear the responsibility to manage resources. So we have to spend our money in a good way. Not just to celebrate ourselves, not just to boast that we have a robot, not just to feel like God. I'm scared of people like these, and I'm totally against this attitude. Totally against. Well, before talking about your commitment in Fondazione ARPA and in the festival, please tell us more about the fact that many people actually fear robotics. Well, talking about medical robots, people have no fears. I mean, they want it. They've seen the neighbor. I mean, this happened in the past with traditional minimally invasive surgery based on cameras and cannulae rather than large incisions. So the patients come to me and ask, are you going to make an operation with the ancient method, meaning the obsolete method, or the laser, meaning minimally invasive surgery or robots? Laser is an imaginative word indicating the top of technology. How often have I heard that? I mean, people know about this because the neighbor has come back from hospital. He was submitted to a kidney operation and after 2 days was already at home. And people come to me and say, I want that kind of kidney operation. So people are very open. But of course, you need rules. You need to make this accessible to everybody with the same level of quality. This is a decisive step in public health care, of which I am a supporter. Well, I also believe that Tuscany, being the place of Renaissance, of humanism, where Leonardo da Vinci has achieved wonderful things. I mean, if at that time they could do such beautiful things, I can imagine that today, with technology and robotics, we cannot but be surprised by what can be achieved. Of course. I mean, think about a cornfield. When I go to the hospital, I travel through the countryside. In the morning, I can see a field. In the evening, I can see the sheaves. Everything has been done. In a couple of hours, a person with one tractor can harvest a whole field. That very same cornfield required many, many people hurting their back, working hard in the past. I mean, some people sometimes wonder whether I shall be there when the robot is going to perform the operation. And I explain everything to them. But people will have the chance of seeing this at the festival. They will see surgical robots. They will realize what it means. But why should we be afraid of technology? Do you know who invented windmills? No. The Greeks. Windmills were developed in Greece. In Greece, we had philosophers. In the Netherlands, people were not so advanced. So in Greece, windmills produced olive oil, produced flour, and the ancient Greeks had time to think. But if you spend your day collecting berries in the woods because you need something to eat, or looking for water, traveling kilometers because you haven't got a well, well, do you think you have time to think? Of course not. You do not have any time to think. You cannot improve, you cannot develop. I mean, we have survived like that for thousands of years, but today the situation has changed and we need to think about that part of the world that has nothing. We belong to a society that has too much. Please allow me to say this. This is a society of opulence, and we must try to help those who have nothing. Sure. So you have founded Fondazione ARPA, a foundation that also aims to help people who suffer, taking care of pain, reducing pain, and finding different ways to support research and young people. Can you please expand on your projects? Well, our foundation is the result of an association, Associazione Pisana for Research in Surgery, which was then transformed in a foundation due to practical reasons, because we wanted to have access to different types of donations and funds. So this was a technical transformation. Our foundation was named Fondazione ARPA when Mr. Andrea Bocelli accepted to be honorary president. Fondazione ARPA. ARPA actually means the harp, the musical instrument. It is not an acronym. It is the Harp Foundation. Have you seen the film The Burmese Harp, a film of the 50s that I strongly recommend to you? This has been the inspiration for the name of our foundation, a film that shows you the meaning of life, the sense of life. It is a film about music and about the sense of life, a strong inspiration for me. If you visit our website, fondazionearpa.it, you will find all this information. So, Fondazione ARPA was set up because we needed resources to train our young people. I have invested so much in training people. I mean, this is not a merit. It was my duty as a university professor. So I have set up Fondazione ARCA because I didn't want my students to have to wait for years for a scholarship. I didn't want to waste any time. Of course, you need a critical mass. You need a given number of young people that you can send abroad so that they can learn transplantation, vascular surgery, new technologies. And then when these people come back, they need a context in which they can do what they've learned. Sure, and quickly as well. Yes, and many people together, you need a critical mass. So that's how Fondazione ARCA was set up. And then, of course, we're very lucky because we can do things. So we have tried to involve also those who have nothing, who cannot do nothing. We have developed a humanitarian cooperation all over the world. You can find all our activities on our website. We have activities in South America, Sub-Saharan Africa, in Africa in general, in the Middle East, Palestine, Armenia, Afghanistan, everywhere. We believe in the following mechanism. I mean, let me give you an example. This lovely lady with mortarboard and robe is the first graduate of the Catholic University in Ecuador, where many other of our people are studying. And those two young gentlemen and lady are our first graduates in Peru. And they have studied in their own country and they are now doctors in their own country. We must allow people to develop in their own country. Otherwise, they will migrate because they have absolutely nothing. They do not even have pills for a toothache. I mean, our civilization has too much. A wonderful map has once been shown by an American colleague at a congress a couple of years ago. It is a world map with the different countries in different colors depending on the intensity of the surgical offer. From dark blue, where every possible type of surgery is provided, 22 different operations so that you have perfect teeth or a perfect nose. This is all legitimate. But if you look at the rest of the planet, almost everything is white. There is no surgery at all. What happens if a child falls and has a spleen laceration? This child is going to die. I mean, I heard about this from my grandmother. When I was a child, she used to tell us what it meant to live on top of the mountains. She used to be a shepherd in the foothills in Biella. If you had an accident there, you would die. If you had appendicitis, if you had worms. I mean, this still happened in the Peruvian mountains. And we cannot do as if we did not know about this. Young people must be involved, and I have many young people working in the field of humanitarian cooperation. And let's make use of technology. Today it is possible to provide remote consultation or remote counseling. We can tell from here what is best to do given a certain situation, viewing all the documentation, which is today possible because you can transfer images. You can make a bacteriological diagnosis. You can make a histological diagnosis remotely. We must exploit this opportunity, and this is what ARPA is doing. And on top of that, we also send our young people abroad to very expert doctors with whom we have agreements, so that they can learn more. And when they come back, you have to look at their eyes. There is a sparkle in their eyes because they have made an experience which will be decisive for their life, which will change their life. I'm deeply convinced of that. Sure. Some time ago, you were also telling me that you can give money, you can give a donation, but when you give knowledge, when you give expertise, when you give know-how, and when you give empathy, that actually changes the interaction between people. That's exactly right. And that's why they have a sparkle in their eyes. Sure, we have the duty to put our know-how to the service of others. Sure, but let's go back to this point one more moment. We have to say that scientific progress also means that people live longer. This is the case in the Western countries, at least, in these dark blue countries, so to say. Our life has become 20, 30 years longer. However, there are still fundamentalists who claim that vaccinations are negative and they jeopardize the life of their children. How can this be possible? Well, there is a share of the population that has the freedom to think as they like. I mean, everybody is free to think what they want, but as you rightly said, there are some fundamentalists. They're not part of the civilian society. My freedom cannot be to the detriment of your freedom. If you send a child to the kindergarten and the child has not been vaccinated and disseminates diseases, well, I don't want my grandchildren to go to that kindergarten, that's very clear. So we have to persuade them. There are people who are against robotics, you were telling me before. Well, actually, there has been a very lively debate. Many claim that robots take jobs away from people. They will increase unemployment. With our festival, we clearly want to explain that robots are to our service. A robot can direct an orchestra, but if you do not have a director, the robot will make a mess. Given the present technology, I mean, I can't talk about other forms of intelligence, but for the time being, robots are to our service. And this is how we must view them, as a big help, as a big support that will make the life of people easier. People won't have to run risks. Think about all the people who die at work, people working in quarries, people digging galleries, tunnels, people building walls along highways. With automation and with robots, we will no longer have people dying when doing these jobs. This will be the big advantage, a better life quality, lower social costs. Robots should not be viewed as competitors of human beings. They are our servants. A robot at the opening of our festival will explain all this. The robot will introduce itself and will explain to us what robots are. We are programming the robot so that the robot can say what it means to be a robot and what we expect of robots. We expect some help to improve life quality so that we can have more time to think. Back to the ancient Greeks who were thinking while the windmills were doing their job. They imagined republic they develop geometry. So we must experience this as something positive. Wonderful, let's now talk of the festival. This extraordinary event will take place from the 7th to the 13th of September 2017. It is the first year, but most likely this will continue in time. Sure, that is our goal. And the fabulous thing of your program is that it is very intense, and we do not only have conferences, but we also have a film festival, meetings, debates with wonderful personalities and celebrities, including a concert with Andrea Bocelli. And this makes me think again of our pioneers here in Tuscany, conjugating art, science and enterprise. I mean, here we can see civic commitment, scientific research, and this kind of entrepreneurship that does not only aim at maximizing profits, but also tries to sort out social, medical, health problems, and that supports culture. It can actually give stimulus to the economy of a whole region. This is the extraordinary feature of your festival. How did you manage to get such a wonderful idea? Well, the idea was born a couple of years ago. Professor Paolo Dario thought about a festival of robotics similar to what is going to happen at the Leopolda station, which is something that you can easily find in the program of the festival, which is online. Together, we have decided to take this kind of approach, that is, to include everything. That is, if you can support a surgeon during operations in Peru, and we already have agreements and we're already working in this direction, I mean, if you can provide counseling from here, or if you give advice to a patient, what about legal responsibility? So we shall also talk of legal aspects. For ethical aspects, we have the wonderful Fiorella Battaglia, who will be with us. She has organized a spectacular workshop. So we're going to talk about this kind of topics, social topics, industrial topics, with important presentations by renowned personalities who will explain everything to the audience. The idea just developed. I mean, being a pensioner, because as I told you before, a professor emeritus is a very special pensioner with more time to think about things. So I have become a passionate lover of robotics. Every day I discover something new, and I'm only sorry that my life expectancy is not going to be very long. But hopefully I will live at least the next 10 years, because what is happening today is something out of this world. A wonderful thing about this program and this Pisa creativity is the fact that there's so many brilliant women in this field. In the other countries, everybody complains that too few women are active. I mean, what has contributed to this different situation in Pisa? Well, first I would like to say that if you attend a lesson at the Medicine University, most people in the room are women, and this is true for the whole of Italy. And it is good so, because women can be excellent doctors. If you attend a lesson or a lecture of the course of biomedical engineering, which we started in the mid-90s together with Paolo Dario and Danilo De Rossi. I mean, when my pupils came back, they had learned minimally invasive surgery abroad. When these young doctors came back, we realized that the world was changing and we had to work together with engineers. So that's how the course was developed. And we have so many attendees, most of whom are women. How comes? I don't know. But for sure, women are formidable researchers, physicians. And if you have a job, you must work. My advice to young people is work as much as you can. Don't look at the watch thinking, when am I going home? When is my shift over? You must be concentrated. You must give the best of yourself, and you must learn this when you're young. So don't waste the first years after graduation, because they're so important. You must learn to work. But how can one conjugate family life and this kind of career that seems to be so absorbing? Well, let's take the example of the career of a surgeon. A general surgeon, as I have been, well, this was really total commitment. But nevertheless, I managed to have a wonderful family, and I'm very proud of this. I have beautiful grandchildren, and I'm very proud of them. How did I manage? Well, it is very important to have the right person next to you. And I've been very lucky because I found the right woman. She has given up a lot. She has supported me. She has given up a normal life. But it is possible to be there even if you come home late in the evening. I've always been with my children. I have played my role. I've seen that you have 3 daughters. Did this influence you as a father and as a man? This feminine environment at home? Of course it did. I've been very, very lucky also in this respect. I'm very proud of what my daughters do, of what they have become, of the way how they live, of how much they're committed. That's fine, but I do not want to talk about me. Right. We're talking to an online audience. We're talking to our followers. What do you want to tell them, to the young people and to the older people as well? Since we live so long these days, we can commit ourselves also at a later stage in life. Well, I have many things to say. Number one, when you're young, please try to find good examples and follow them, and collect as much information as you can. You must acquire information. This is paramount. This is something I always tell my medical students. Go to the clinic, go to the hospital, find out whether you like this job, whether you think this job is the right job for you. I mean, you can't just say, I want to be a surgeon. Of course, it sounds wonderful, but you must be made for that. Otherwise, some may think it over later on. Some are no longer happy, but they go on working as a surgeon, and this can become dangerous if you're not passionate about your job. You become a danger. You become a bureaucrat. When my time is over, I go home. I mean, what about therapeutic continuity? I've recently read a sentence by Aristotle claiming that nobody can take care of things in a better way than he who has sinned them from the start. I mean, if you make an operation on a patient and then you go home, switch off your telephone because there is another doctor in the hospital. If the patient is bleeding in the night and you cannot be reached because your telephone is switched off, I mean, you have to go back to the hospital and take care of your patient. Of course, we have rulings. You have to work so and so many hours. This is a result of a European movement. So much so that there are rules now. But I have never left a patient on his own. I was always ready to go back to the hospital. That's therapeutic continuity, according to Aristotle. So get all the information you need so that you can make a decision as to whether that given job is the right thing for you, whether that environment is the right one for you. So you have to talk to your teachers, to your professors. Professors are tutors, and I still have many pupils and students coming by asking for information. It is my duty, and I'm very glad to provide us with orientation. So collect as much information as you can and Do not rush your decisions. If you are uncertain, if you do not know what you want to specialize in, just take your time, think it over. Because if you make a mistake, that will be a mistake for your life. It will make your life hell. You will take a place that somebody else could actually take over and do much better than you. I'm not talking about people having wonderful marks at university. There are people who have a different kind of intelligence. Emotional intelligence, for instance, which is very important for a surgeon. So emotional intelligence, this is very, very important. So do not rush, wait and see, and then when you've made your decision, then you have to work, because you are lucky to have a job. So you have to put yourself to the service of other people. And of course you will work also for yourself, because you will feel fulfilled. Yes, giving and receiving. Well, even though we're just about to start with this wonderful festival, if you had even more resources, which other projects would you develop? Well, I would certainly strengthen the mechanism of humanitarian cooperation. I believe that what we can do today is just a drop in the sea. But if we put all these drops together, we make the sea. And then we can really stop boats with migrants. It will take a long time, but that's a way to do it, helping people grow with the help of technology in different fields, not only healthcare. Technology can be used to cultivate fields, to find water, to understand that that given plant is not doing fine for a certain reason. I mean, with the Palm PC, people go all over the world operating hair lips. I mean, if the leaves are too yellow, I'm sure that some remote consulting is possible also in this field, without having agronomists flying on the place. And it is possible also to educate people. These are the different goals of ARPA. Our first motto is do ut des. This does not mean I give you and then you give me back. No, I give you so that you can give others. This is what we asked Homero, that young man there, the surgeon in Peru. In 10 years, he has evolved in a fantastic way. He has attended courses here in minimally invasive surgery, and now he's responsible for 120 beds in a large hospital in Peru. And it was thanks to ARPA that he managed to study. And we have told him, you have received, now you must do this for your young people. You have to select them, understand who is talented, and you have to support the talented one. We will help you in this. So this is our concept. Then, of course, we have many other mottos. For instance, those who have more must give more. This is a motto by Tognolo, a saint from Pisa. And it is not just a monetary issue. If you have more, you must give more. Also in terms of knowledge, if you're more knowledgeable, you must give more. This is how we must bring up our young people. Young people are fully aware of this. They are very reactive, but you must support them and you must prove to them that it works. And this will change your life. I mean, not everybody will follow us because unfortunately there is a decadent society and many young people grow surrounded by absolutely nothing, no values at all. But to answer your question, I would invest more in humanitarian cooperation. But please do not forget that ARPA does not only work in the field of humanitarian cooperation. At the festival, people will be able to see our surgical simulators that we have bought last year. In the last 2 years, we spent more than 400,000 euros to have the best in the field. And they're there for our training doctors, for specializing doctors. Simulation is another great business of the future. An operation is simulated, and then You can do it in the operating theatre on the following day. Through simulation, you can learn a lot without needing experimental animals, guinea pigs, or learning curves. This is something wonderful. Think about the learning curve. During the operation, the gallbladder was lacerated. This is a case I've recently seen. It was a 26-year-old lady. She has been ruined for her life, and this was due to the learning curve. This is not acceptable. A training doctor should not run the risk of causing such damage. That has nothing to do with the learning curve. This is a crime, since today we have the possibility of using simulation and other means. And then, of course, we have judges and lawyers involved into this. Well, you have told us some extraordinary things. My last question. What would you say to those who can support ARPA? Because, of course, ARPA is funded through charity and donation. We have learned in the last few years that it is very important to keep account of what we do. I mean, we can tell the people, this is what we've done with your money. And I think that this is the best way to do things. People who know us, who have been happy with the hospital care they have received, who are happy with our activity as physicians, well, these people won't forget us. And if they see that we spend their money in the most appropriate way, then they will go on donating. I'm very confident. I'm sure that we can find new ways to obtain funds. I work a lot with artists. Artists are, by nature, givers. They are extraordinary, exceptional people. It is a pleasure to get to know them, and I work with many of them. During the festival, a significant number of renowned artists will paint works of art dedicated to robotics. So we will have some fun, and then we shall auction their works, and we're also publishing books. You mentioned pain before. We have a special project about pain. Maestro Bocelli has asked me to focus on pain. That's why we have started a project which was dedicated to his tutor. When Andrea Bocelli was young, he had a tutor, and we have developed a project focusing on pain in home care, hospices, research. It is working very well, and we're supporting our researchers, immunologists, biologists, pharmacologists. And of course, this absorbs a lot of funds. So how can we sustain our activities in the future? I will have to think about something. So, for the moment, I have told you what we are doing now. Then we have the 5 per mil, which is something pretty significant. It is a donation that you can give when you pay taxes. This has no extra cost for the taxpayer, and it is a very good system. Many donations can be deducted from taxes. This is another system that we can expand. It works very well in the United States. There are some amazing benefactors in the United States. In some hospitals, you see so many plates dedicated to benefactors. I've seen a bust dedicated to a benefactor who had donated a whole hospital division. Well, this benefactor has a bust in the entrance hall. But the name is a pretty prestigious one. We're talking of an Uncle Scrooge of the world. But we're very keen also on the participation of normal people in our projects. People must realize that when they need help, it is an advantage to go to a hospital that works. And if you invest in young people, they will give back to you when you need it. Because as you told us before, we are going to live a long time given statistical data. And the older you get, the more you need hospitals. And it is not enough to have somebody you know working there or a friend of a friend that will help you out. It doesn't work like that. When a problem comes, you need a functional hospital, an efficient hospital, because this can make the difference between living and dying. So this is what I'm telling to our citizens. Help physicians make their job in the best possible way. Sure, and support robotics as well, because robots can be of help to the elderly, to disabled individuals. Of course, we have a whole day dedicated to rehabilitation during our festival, a whole day dedicated to disability, sports in disability. These are all wonderful things. And I believe that this is a field that will see fabulous developments for all types of disability, including tetraplegia. We have a whole day dedicated to this. Well, Professor Mosca, thank you very much for all what you do and for your commitment. See you in September in Pisa. We're looking forward to seeing you at the festival. Thank you very much. We will have wonderful concerts. Please come, because you will see something sensational. Many conferences will be organized. They have been designed for different types of audience. So everybody will find something interesting. So thank you very much for giving me this opportunity. And I hope that I have been clear enough and that I have followed all the YouTube communication rules. I've tried to be very transparent, and thank you very much for this wonderful chat. It has been a pleasure to get to know you. Thank you very much for communicating your ideas. I've really learned a lot. Thank you.